So today we are joined by Rakesh Kamal, who is the lead faculty of this course. He works as the sustainability manager across all TGI global offices, where he oversees the delivery of TGI's new sustainability plan on achieving the organization's mission sustainably from three major perspectives: our people, our communities, and our planet. His works also involve facilitating office and personal sustainability initiatives. He holds 15 years of experience in environment and climate change policy, advocacy, and project implementation. His journey spans from the grassroots level work in India, where he actively participated in diverse sustainability projects, to engaging in climate advocacy across governmental platforms at global levels. Prior to this, he was working as a program manager at Climate Reality, the Center for Science and Environment and ICLEI South Asia, and is the co-founder of communication channel Suno India and its podcast Climate Emergency. He holds a bachelor degree in civil engineering and a master's in environmental science from University of Idaho, USA. So Rakesh is nonetheless the best person to take us through this complex interconnection of health and climate. And with this, very warm welcome to you, Rakesh, and over to you.
Thank you very much. That was quite a long thing about me. This session, the first session today is going to be a lot, it will be more like a monologue. I'll be presenting. So I used to work with Climate Reality, which was an organization founded by Nobel laureate Al Gore. And there I used to work a lot with, presenting on climate change. So today, the presentation that I'm going to be making is the standard climate change presentation, which will talk about the basics, the science. I have changed it a little to have a lot more health, related stuff. It's a long presentation, but I will be moving the slides very fast. So if you see 85 slides, don't worry about it. There are slides which move really fast. So I'll start sharing my screen. Yep. If you have any questions, you can always unmute yourself and just talk. You don't have to raise hand or anything, and we can talk about it. So, this is the picture, the video of Earth taken from a satellite, which was 1.5 million kilometers. It's 1.5 million kilometers towards the sun. When we think about our planet, we don't necessarily think about how, beautiful it is and how it's all nothing but chemistry that's happening around the planet, right? It's water that's moving everywhere through atmosphere, and this was one of the first videos of the Earth that was taken. So today in the presentation, we'll be talking about three things. Must we change? Can we change? And will we change? I'll tell why I've put these three questions as we go forward in the presentation. It will be divided into these three different categories. So must we change? Right? Climate is changing. We all know that climate is changing. We all keep talking that climate is changing, but must we change? Why should we change? A little bit of science before we get into the discussion. Uh, Basic science. This is something that we've all learned in our 6th, 7th standards. Solar radiation in the form. Sorry. Solar radiation in the form of light waves passes through the atmosphere, and it hits the Earth. Uh, like we all know, most of the radiation is absorbed by the Earth, and it warms it, and that is what helps all the life on the planet live. Some of the energy is radiated back into the space in the form of infrared rays, and some of it is reflected back, and that is what helps keep the Earth warm. And this is where the problem is. What is happening right now is the atmosphere is getting warmer. How is it getting warmer? We are spewing 175 million tons of man-made global warming pollution into the Earth's atmosphere every 24 hours. So that's a lot of gas that we are releasing through various activities, and because of which, as CO2 concentration increases, more of the outgoing infrared is trapped. So which causes a lot more warming on the Earth. And these are all the different kinds of ways because of which the greenhouse gas emissions are increasing, be it from oil production, air transport, forest burning, landfills, you can see industrial processes, coal mining, fertilization. All these are different kinds of major kinds of sources through which greenhouse gases have been produced. But then the largest source has always been fossil fuel, burning of fossil fuels. And as you can see from this graph, from 1950s onwards, it's been increasing. The industrial revolution has happened, and the amount of greenhouse gas has been increasing quite a lot in the atmosphere. So there are two cases that I want to talk a little more about. One is you can see two dips in the recent past. One is when the global pandemic began. We saw that everything stopped, right from all the travel, all the most of the emissions stopped, where we saw a dip. Similarly, there was also a global financial crisis way back when that was also when there was a small dip. It went down by approximately 6%. Uh, and then again it went back. We started emitting again the same. So when we talk about atmosphere, what do we mean? How big is it, right? So, for example, if you take a cricket ball and dip it in a ball in oil and remove it, the layer of oil that is around a ball, that is how thin the atmosphere is. It's not really a lot. We can see the space from here, but the atmosphere doesn't exist till then, right? So that is what we're talking about when we talk about atmosphere and how much of gas we are producing. This is a graph about global surface temperature anomaly. As you can see, it's been something that's been growing. We have crossed 1 degree centigrade way back, before 2020. And in the last 4 years, if you see, uh, it's only been increasing. The temperatures have been increasing every year. We have almost crossed 1.5 degrees centigrade, which is what we said, in the Paris Agreement we spoke about. We'll talk about it later, but I'm just telling that in Paris Agreement, there's a clause to say that we'll keep the globe from increasing temperature by 1.5 degrees centigrade. So this is the 10 years, 10 hottest years on record. 2024 has been the hottest. Every year, I've been doing this slide for a really long time, and I keep seeing that every year the number keeps changing, and every year it is the latest year that keeps getting added. You can see 23, 24, 22, 2020, 2019. More or less every year, it's just the order slightly different, and these have been the hottest years on record. And why is that happening? Because CO2 is being released into the atmosphere faster than any time in at least the last 66 million years. And there are scientists who do research, especially, and who are able to measure exactly the amount of carbon dioxide that is there in the atmosphere. Just like how you have these tree rings, if you drill in snow in Chile or in Arctic and places like these, you can clearly see the amount of carbon dioxide that is there because of layers of snow that falls every year. And scientists have been doing this, and they're able to tell exactly how much temperature was there, how much carbon dioxide was there, and that's something that we are starting to see increasing every year. And 93% of the heat trapped by man-made global warming pollution goes into the ocean. So that is one thing that we need to remember, that we often don't look at, is how there's so much of ocean which is taking the all the temperature in, which is what is trying to keep the earth cooler. If we see, when we talk about oceans also, when the global heat content has been changing ever since 1960, and it's been increasing, on it's different on be it atmosphere, on land, or on ice. But if you see in oceans, it's a lot more. The global heat content is a lot more on surface temperatures of the ocean, and that kind of is a major problem. Half of the ocean increase, half of the increase in the ocean heat content has occurred in the last 20 years. So what happens when we have a lot more heat on the surface water of the ocean is, as temperature increases, the oceans evaporate quite a lot, and more moisture is there in the sky. So that is what's happening, right? You see a lot more water that is there in the form of moisture in our sky, and wherever it is conducive, it falls, right? It falls as rain, it comes as cyclones, we have floods. All these is happening a lot more with a lot more intensity because there's a lot more moisture in the sky. So, like I said, the downpours are getting bigger and bigger every day, and we've seen quite a lot of cloud bursts that like we call, which are happening. We've seen this in Rishikesh. We are also seeing them currently. I just have some pictures from the past that I thought I'll share. Pakistan has seen worst kind of floods this year as well, and they're starting to see that every year. There's lots of huge amount of loss that is happening, and it's usually the poorest who get the most impacted, the vulnerable population. This was a quote by Pope Francis, who also mentioned the same. So, you know, two things, right? When there's a lot of heat, the oceans get evaporated, and at the same time, the lands get evaporated as well. And then lands get evaporated, you get droughts, and we are seeing long-term droughts, which are longer and deeper droughts more often than ever before. From this graph, you can see how there's been more dry extremes, which means there's huge, very bad droughts in some places, and very wet extremes where there's a lot more rainfall. That balance is not happening because those extremities are increasing quite a lot. And we also have forest fires that are happening quite a lot. We're starting to see forest fires in places like Himachal, and where there were never forest fires before, but now we are starting to see, even in India, in hills, we are seeing forest fires uh, because of various reasons. There's a lot of change in the way that insects are, which are causing damage to the forest, and there's multiple reasons for it, which we'll talk a little more as we go forward. But we are seeing an increase in number of forest fires that are happening. This is a graph about extreme weather catastrophes that are happening. Uh, we are starting to see, if you just look at disasters, they're all put together, they're increasing every year. And they cost quite a lot. It costed $3.54 trillion. We keep talking about, uh, Modi keeps talking about 5 trillion economy and all. In the last, decade itself, $3.54 trillion of loss has happened, and which is more than 795 billion from the previous decade. So these are things that we are starting to see, which are making a lot of impact. And as temperature rises, so does the water use. People are having to drink more water. You need to put more water for the crops. For energy, you need water, evaporation, industry, and animals. Everything, the need for water keeps on increasing, but at the same time, water scarcity is also a major problem that we are seeing. More than 40% of the world population already is affected by scarcity. So we'll talk about two things, the Arctic and Antarctic, and understand what is happening there in terms of the melting of ice. This is the Arctic, where in Greenlands, you must have even heard Trump talk about going and occupying Greenland so many times. One of the major reasons is now that because of the melting of glaciers, melting of snow in Greenlands, people can now ride across Greenlands during summer. In boats, and then there's so much of petroleum and all these rare minerals that people, countries are looking for, which are there. So it's becoming a really big problem. Every summer, the temperatures are increasing, going abnormal. The ice is melting quite a lot. This is an unnamed glacier in 35, and this is from 2013. There is a massive decline in ice mass that's happening in Greenland. And at the same time, when we talk about Antarctic, which is the South Pole, the loss of ice is also, quite a lot. Every decade, there's like major ice loss that's happening. You're starting to see floods everywhere. This school was destroyed by raising sea level. The housing crisis is also one thing that is, something the economists said that the climate crisis could cost $25 trillion in the global housing market. We're seeing insurance prices increase, right? So how does what are this relation between health and climate? This is something that I wanted to talk a lot more in our presentation today. So health is interlinked with all these uh, things that I've put forward, and they're all interlinked, right? Extreme weather events and allergies are interlinked. Mental health is interlinked. Infectious diseases are interlinked. We have a lot more floods. We all know that there is more chance for increased cholera. There's more mosquitoes. Mosquitoes breeding patterns change. All these are interlinked. Heat stress is one of the major things that we keep talking about, even in George, which these are all interlinked, and climate change is only making all of these worse. Climate change is disrupting natural ecosystems in a way that is making life better for infectious disease. This is a big problem, right? Places where we have not seen uh, or heard of diseases like dengue and chikungunya, we're starting to see them more and more. There are a lot of issues. I wouldn't say climate change is the only reason. There is urban issues. There is, a lot of issues together, put together, and climate change is a major reason that is fueling this fire. So as the climate changes and humans expand further into all these places, we are seeing five new infectious diseases are emerging on average each year, which is a big problem. And with so much of movement that is happening across the world, tropical disease also on the move. Places where we have not seen, like I mentioned, be it chikungunya or dengue fever, we are starting to see them quite a lot. In Europe, where there were never cases of dengue, they're starting to see them. It's a global problem, right? It's not just one country which is getting impacted or one place. uh, Equally, be it global south or global north, everyone's getting impacted because of climate change, and the increase of diseases, tropical disease, has become quite a lot. And the mosquito resistance is a big problem. We all know about how much we get impacted because of malaria, dengue, chikungunya every year, and the life cycle of mosquito is starting to change, which is a big problem. Because the increasing life cycle of mosquito would only means that the mosquitoes can live longer and bite more people, right? So it's a big problem that that life cycle changing is causing a lot more problems. Air pollution is a major problem, right? Worldwide, 8.7 million people every year. When you burn fossil fuel, uh, coal, gas, and oil, you get this heat trapping global warming pollution. But at the same time, it is really bad because of air pollution. We see that in Delhi, we see that every year. Major problem. How many people die because of air pollution every year is a major challenge that most of the cities in the world, major cities in the world, are facing right now. You know, one of the like I was mentioning earlier, all the major waterborne infectious diseases get impacted because of climate change. Climate change increases the risk, be it cholera, dysentery, hepatitis, typhoid, E. coli, all of these. There's a major problem. They all get impacted because of climate change. We don't necessarily see, especially as researchers are working on ground, we work on these issues. But then when you look at it from a different lens, from a climate lens, you will see how increasing change in temperature, changing weather patterns is causing all these to also uh, increase. The risk of it starts increasing. So the climate crisis is also an extinction and biodiversity crisis, right? We are seeing more and more animals go extinct every year. We are now at the risk of losing up to 50% of land-based species in this century, which is, species that survived prehistoric times are now going extinct. Uh, like I said, when I'm talking about the problem, I'm not saying it's only because of climate change. Everything is happening. It is urbanization. It is deforestation. It is all the other factors as well. But climate change kind of also adds fuel to the fire, and that's a major problem. And what is the cost of all of this? right? The cost of carbon. Uh, what what happens because of this? Because of climate change, you have political instability, we have floods, we have melting of glaciers, famines. There are some of the things. Climate refugees are increasing. We're starting to see more and more people moving out because of sea level rise, right? Do you consider them climate refugees? How do you define climate refugees? There's a whole lot of discussion that's happening around it. Ocean acidification is happening, which is causing a lot more problems. So everything is getting impacted because of climate change, be it droughts, stormwater drainages. It's been the number one threat to our global economy. It's a major problem. So must we change? Of course, we have to change, but can we change? That's the question, right? Uh, but what is there? We have solutions at hand. It's not like everything's lost, everything is gloomy, and we can't change anything, and the world is coming to an end, right? That's not how it is. That's not how the story should end. We have solutions at hand. Uh, as per the International Energy Agency, IEA, they have been telling us for some time now that we have all the technology that we need to cut emissions in half this decade. And there are proven models, and we have a clear line of sight on how to get to net zero. So it's not really rocket science, I can say that. That there are solutions that we have in hand, and we can reduce our emissions by 50% in this decade if we want. And I'll tell you what is happening in different fields, right? In global wind energy capacity has been increasing. We are also, like, I don't know, when you drive down in Andhra Pradesh, in Karnataka, in Rajasthan, wherever you go, you see windmills. And this is something that is, we've started observing in the last at least 10, 15 years. Also a lot because the capacity is increasing, and we are starting to see a lot more capacity being increasing. And globally, wind could supply worldwide electricity consumption 40 times over. It's not only because of subsidies that wind is taking going forward. It is also because it's becoming cheaper over the time. And if we talk about solar, uh, in 2004, it used to take about a year to install 1 gigawatt of solar, but now it happens in 15 hours. So it's more dramatic compared to even wind. Um, so world solar installations 2010 onwards, there's, like I said, government support, rebates, and not just these. When we talk about advocacy, I think the Paris agreement that happened in 2015 kind of gave a clear signal that this is the way that the world should move forward. And it kind of really helps when you have a clear signal. The market also takes forward a lot of things. And what happened is, in solar specifically, when we talk, the cost of solar per watt has reduced drastically from the time in 1976 when it was $79. It was, a rare uh, thing that would do to. Now everyone has it, right? It's 0.11 watt per watt, $0.11 per watt, which is like very cheap. Even in India, it is not at all expensive, right? We have so many solar parks that are coming. There's still a lot more need for rooftop solar, decentralized solar. There's way too many where, which has additional benefits, like uh, hospitals with solar not only become help in reducing emissions, but also help as an adaptation measure. When I say adaptation measure, they help as backup electricity and things like these, which have a lot more value. So that's one of the things that happening in solar. So enough of solar reaches Earth every hour to fill the world's energy needs for a full year. So that's much how much potential is there. I don't remember the exact name of the district, but I remember someone telling me that if we have panels in one district of Rajasthan, it would be enough to cover an year's, electricity supply for all of India. I know it requires a lot of land, and there are a lot of discussions about land rights and all these that need to be also we need to get into. But I'm just telling theoretically that there's enough. It's not like there is uh, any shortage of it. So when we talk about vehicles as well, Bloomberg says that that world has hit its peak petrol-powered vehicle sales in 2017. We are starting to see a lot more electric vehicles here in India and everywhere else in the world. it's taken quite a lot of vehicles that are coming out, which are electric. If you see in this graph, similarly, battery and plug-in hybrid EVs have been increasing every year, and we are starting to see that a lot more in the last 5 to 6 years, and the trend is only going to increase. And that is also happening because the cost has decreased. The cost of the lithium-ion batteries has fallen down. At the same time, uh, the cumulative battery demand is on rise. I mean, if you talk economics, it's demand supply, right? So storage capacity is what is game changer. Solar is good, but solar with battery kind of is a game changer. It changes the whole. It gives you a lot more independence, right, in terms of producing your own electricity and staying off grid. And that is something that is starting to increase, and the trend only shows that it's going to go up quite a lot. And by 2035, it's projected to increase drastically. So investments in renewables and energy efficient creates a lot more jobs, 3 times more jobs on average than investments in fossil fuel technologies. And it kind of really gives a really good direction for the government to put money into clean jobs because you have a lot more jobs and they're good jobs. There are already 16 million jobs in clean energy. There, so like you can see in 2023, directly and indirectly. They're only going to be increasing. There are now 3 million more jobs in clean energy than in fossil fuels. And this is a trend that is, increasing every year. We are starting to see, even as a person who works in this specific field, I can tell you that I have clearly seen a lot more people get employed, a lot more opportunities come up in the last 5 to 6 years than ever before. So can we change? Of course, yes, we can change. We have all the technology that is required to change. So, theoretically speaking, these are all, uh, like I said, the emissions have been increasing, the temperature has been increasing, and when we said by 1.5 we will stop, and even if today, once the world reaches net zero carbon dioxide emissions, uh, global temperatures will stop increasing in as soon as 3 to 5 years. This is called true net zero or true zero. The temperature will stop going up almost immediately with the lag of at least 3 to 5 years. This is a published study that was done by Penn State University. And if we halted our uh, net carbon dioxide emissions about half, the human-made carbon dioxides would be taken out of the atmosphere and absorbed into the upper ocean and trees within about 30 years. So it would cut down, and there is possibility. It's not impossible for there is damage. Like I said, some of the animals that gone extinct will not be able to bring them back. There will be issues like these which can't be done. There is still hope. It's not like we are all done and it is all gloomy. So will we change, right? And this is the third question I had. And we've seen this. We've seen that, like I said, in Paris climate conference that has happened in 2015. It was historic. That was one of the first years where I started tracking climate change negotiations, what is happening in the negotiations, how it happens, and what happens inside it, how countries come together and why countries come together, what is their interest. All that, it was interesting to see that. And what happened in Paris was that every nation agreed to work towards achieving net zero by mid-century. There's different countries which have different targets, different goals, different requirements. But then, in more or less an understanding that by mid-zero we'll have net zero. And of course, US is the only one which is threatening to withdraw now, but it can't withdraw till Trump is gone because they have like to be at least 4 years. So uh, let's see what happens with the US. But the direction is very clear. A lot of European countries have stepped in. Even China has stepped in terms of taking lead on climate change, and it's something that's happening. It's the 10th year of Paris Agreement, and it's still holding good. So I'm glad it's working out well. So what has happened? Like I said, there has been a clear signal that has given during Paris that clean energy and move towards more sustainable fuels is what is required. We've seen that the cost of the wind energy has declined, the cost of EVs has declined, the solar energy has declined, and utility scale batteries has declined. And this has only happened because of the policy push, the advocacy, the communication that has happened. It's been happening for over 20 years, and it's a slow process, the way that global policy and advocacy works. But then, it has been happening very slowly. Since 2015, the world has installed more than twice as much solar capacity as for all fossil fuels combined. Uh, we are seeing, right, in India, we've been seeing, and everywhere, not just in India, yeah, even in Australia, where I am right now, we are seeing like way too much, solar that's coming in. We're seeing move to electric vehicles, to hybrid vehicles, and it's kind of helping. It's also because of the direction that is there. The costs have fallen down, and the market is taking it forward. At 34x, that is the number of sales that's happening of electric cars worldwide. And 440 global companies have made a commitment to go 100% renewable energy. In fact, when we at George are aiming, have started just last year, and as per law, we are not necessarily required to uh, provide our climate emissions. But then we just started with our impact report, and within 3 to 4 years, we are looking at also voluntarily reporting our emissions. Here, if you see in this slide, you can see that more or less all major companies that we can think of are on the path to net zero, because it is business sense, and it also helps them grow. All these countries have net zero targets, except for maybe the US, which kind of is a problem. But like I said, all the other countries in the world right now are taking the lead, and there's a lot of we'll be submitting emissions even this year. All the countries will be submitting, and there will be negotiations that will happen in Brazil this year, where there will be discussion on reducing emissions and the way forward. So, what do we do? How do we support, um, climate change, or how do we participate in this? We do by, choosing, uh, joining those who are using their voices, uh, selecting and putting our votes to the people who care about climate change, and with our choices, what we do, how we reduce, how we travel, what we buy, what we wear, everything also is important to advocate for their future. So yeah, use your voice, use your word, use your choices, because the world depends on it. Thank you.